I've pressed record for everybody. And can I just check, Caroline, can you stick your hand up if you can hear me? Wonderful. Debbie is sat beside me and is going to be leading this. Okay. So at the moment you're all unmuted, but once Debbie starts speaking, I'm going to, if we get any of that feedback noise, can you put your hand up to say you've got the feedback noise? And I'll turn mute people. Okay. We also have, I'm just going to swivel the thing around, Matt here with us, Matt Rawston, is here in the room with us so that there's a kind of natural conversation to this webinar. Okay. And we are expecting Lisa to ring in later on, aren't we? Lisa Dancer from the Hillingdon Project, who is using books on prescription to ring in. We are expecting this to last about 45 minutes to an hour, but I've kind of allowed a bit longer in case we had technical problems or people wanted a little bit more time, but otherwise we'll kind of be finished then. You are going to be watching a video and listening to Lisa, and then you are invited to chip in with your own examples, or you are invited to type into the chat questions and things that you've got, and then we can see those and we can check what they are and kind of read them out to everybody so that you... Does anybody need any other technical information or advice from me before we start? No. Two simple words, okay? If that's at your end, the sound, if you're aware it's at your end, then you might want to turn your mic off, but actually I'll probably just mute people in a minute. So I'm going to say over to Debbie to introduce herself.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm Debbie Hicks. It's great to be here. So fantastic to have Katina, because this is my first webinar. So anyway, I'm creative director of the Reading Agency. I'm also the lead for our Reading and Health programme, and I've been doing a lot of work around looking at the potential of reading as a health mental health tool. And I'm really excited about the possibilities that there might be around joining up reading well books on prescription with some of the community learning models that you're developing, because I think there's lots of potential for positioning the scheme in relation to this project, because the evidence shows that it is a really effective tool in helping people to understand and manage their mental health. So I just wanted to start by asking if anybody's actually using the scheme at the moment. If anybody is or is aware of reading well books on prescription.
Caroline, if you're... Right, in theory you've got audio, Caroline, but we can't hear it. Any chance you want to use the chat and then I can pick it up from there?
Okay, where's that?
We can hear you very loudly.
Bottom of the screen.
Okay. We'll listen really hard. So you said, so if you want to ask Debbie again, or say what you were going to say.
No, I'm struggling with the sound at the moment. The volume's not loud enough.
Can you hear me? Can you not hear me very well?
No,
really quiet. Okay, let's move that a bit nearer.
Is that better?
I wonder if it's at my end.
Is that any better? Is
that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we've got the same problem, I think, in your sound coming through.
Yes.
So we might have to ask you to bellow at us.
Okay, so I was just asking if anybody was already aware of reading well books on prescription or worked with their local library services in any way.
Right. I've not. I know Julia's had some experience with you. I don't know if you've got me on your screen. I used to work in libraries in Sheffield, and I was aware of it. I didn't use it myself, but I was aware that it was something the library service had bought into.
Okay. Okay. Well.
Yeah, I can hear. Can they hear me?
Can you hear Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to say, in our pilot in Derby, I've made links with the library service, mainly around venues.
Right.
But I was looking at the books on prescription scheme as a place to promote our courses, but it's now very obvious to me that we've got groups around and courses around creative writing, for example.
Okay.
So we do know that those people are interested
Okay, right, that's really helpful. Yeah. Well, I thought I'd start with just giving you a quick overview of the scheme using a PowerPoint. So we'll just load that up now. And hopefully it should all work. Okay.
Just do the photos for you.
Right. So let's just go through to
Push it a bit more.
I just thought I'd start with telling you a little bit about Reading Agency. Not sure if you know anything about us, but we're a national charity, and our mission is to inspire, share and celebrate reading. And our basic vision is based around the fact that we believe that everything changes when we read. And so that's why we work to give everybody better access to the benefits of reading, which we think include, and have the evidence to prove include, better health and well-being. We're a small charity, so our power is in our partnerships, and we work very closely with public libraries on the delivery of big national reading programmes. So you may have heard of the Summer Reading Challenge, which is one of ours, delivered with the library service. And that partnership is really important to us, but we also work with a whole range of other providers, including adult education and community learning providers, particularly around our Reading Ahead programme, which used to be called the 6 Book Challenge and has just been relaunched. And I think there's lots of potential for us joining up much more closely in lots of different ways. So this might be the start of lots of new opportunities. But I think, I'm particularly interested in the whole potential of reading for pleasure as a mental health tool. And I've done a lot of work in this area over the last 10 years, building up the evidence base, which I think, clearly proves the power of reading, not only as a means of building health literacy and health awareness, but also a means of providing escapism and relief through creative fiction, providing book-based therapy, but also as an opportunity for joining people up through social reading activities such as reading groups. And we've done a lot of work pulling together the evidence base for the power of reading in all those different ways. And I've put a link on this slide here, so if you wanted to check that out, you could have a look at the evidence around some of those sorts of interventions. But it's from this research really that the work on reading well books on prescription has emerged, and basically what it is a national public library mental health scheme that's available in the community for local people to use, with no costs at all. And so it's a really useful tool to sit alongside some of the interventions that you're developing. So what is it then, and how does it work? Well, the first thing I have to say is the model isn't new. We can't claim any credit for inventing reading the books on prescription model, because the whole thing was developed in Wales by a colleague of mine who we're working very closely with, Professor Neil Frood, and there's been a scheme there since 2004. But what we have done here in England is pull together lots of local good practice into a national scheme that runs across all English library authorities, so it's available in around 96% of English library authorities. It's quality assured, it's evidence-based, and it works within clinical guidelines. So the key thing about the scheme is that it has been developed with health partners, such as the Royal College of GPs, Royal College of Nursing, Royal College of Psychiatrists, the NHS England IAP programme, are all partners in the development and delivery of the programme. And it's delivered, as I said, through public libraries in community spaces that are non-stigmatised and easily accessible for people to use. But we're also thinking, linking up with other providers to think about how the scheme might operate in other settings. So it is available in some university and college settings, and really interested to think about how we're going to develop that network of provision. So basically, the model is really simple but very effective. What it does is it provides quality assured self-help reading and book-based therapy. So it's focused around CBT, but there are a sort of other elements involved to support common mental health needs. So there's a core book list of about 30 evidence-based titles, which have all been accredited by our health partners, selected with them, but also with service user groups. And they're available both on the open shelves in public libraries for anybody as a, as a self-referral model, but it's also a tool that's available for clinicians, so GPs and IAP providers, to recommend reading to support treatment. And the scheme's signposted by leaflets, so there's 2 million of those leaflets out there in community health settings. It's also signposted by NHS Choices, and there's a video on NHS Choices, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And basically, the scheme was launched in 2013 with the focus on common mental health conditions. We followed that up because it's been so successful this year with a new scheme which is focused on dementia for people with a diagnosis of dementia, people worried about symptoms, but also for carers. And we've got a new list under development for young people and families, which we're going to be launching next year. So it's an ongoing programme with a 3-year plan focused on different health needs. So here's just a copy of some of the books that are available. As I say, there's 30 titles. They focus on common mental health conditions, over 16 conditions covered, including anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, sleep disorders. So there's a bit with the curriculum you're developing. As I say, we've got a really rigorous book selection protocol, and all the books have been selected and endorsed by professionals, by service users, and all evidence-based. I think one of the things I would say about the scheme is that because it was our first model, we were really careful about the sort of materials that we use and worked very closely within clinical guidelines. What we've learned from that is actually the importance of widening the footprint of the sort of material that's available, and making sure we've got lots of different types of formats for different types of readers. And so when we come to revise this scheme, which we will be doing next year, we'll be taking all that into account. But most of the books, they're all books are available in hard copy. Most of them are also available in ebook format, which obviously has that text-to-speech facility to help increase accessibility. And I just thought it'd be interesting to give you some data about impact to just sort of reinforce really the value of the programme. We absolutely accept that there's a need for proper clinical research around impact, which we're currently fundraising for, but we do have some really strong data from our first year evaluation. We're just working on our second year, which was being conducted by an external agency. So we'll have some more data in October to share with you. But basically, in the first year, we know that the scheme reached 275,000 people across England, and that it delivered really strong book issues. So those core list titles, the loans of those titles in libraries more than doubled, increased by 113%. The books were really popular. They've been frequently renewed, and also very interestingly, there's been a high rate of non-returns, which is good news for us because people like them, but maybe it's not such good news for libraries. And it's interesting that actually the dementia scheme, in the first quarter, the loans of those titles have more than tripled, so nearly 300% increase in loans. So we're obviously meeting some sort of need out there. We've got around 7,000 prescribing partnerships working with us, mostly GPs and IAP providers. And what our survey from last year is telling us that the people are using the scheme both as a targeted self-help intervention, so part of a programme, to provide help for people while they're on a waiting list, as part of existing treatment, or actually post-treatment, or as something to keep people going. And I think that the way that prescribers are using it may also sort of fit with your modelling as well. And as I say, there are lots of leaflets out there which are signposting people to the scheme and to libraries. And I think in terms of our user impact, I think we've got some really interesting trends developing, because although we've got a good prescriber base supporting us, what we know is that there's a really strong self-referral element to the scheme. So around 80% of our sample survey last year people actually came to the scheme by picking up a leaflet, going into or finding something in a library and borrowing it. And I think that's also what's interesting is that whilst lots of people did read to find the bits of the book that they liked, lots of people, or nearly half of our sample, also read the entire book that they borrowed. And everybody, 100% of the sample survey said that the book that they borrowed had been helpful. 79% of the survey said that people said that it helped them understand more about their condition. 3/4 said that it made them feel more confident about managing symptoms, and almost a third, just over a third of the sample said that they felt that their symptoms had got better. So I think that there's some useful data there around the power of books and the power of learning to help people with their mental health conditions. And I just put in this little case study from Jill Taft, who's actually based in the West Midlands, around the way that she'd used the scheme, because I think her words are a pretty powerful endorsement of how books can be a sort of lifeline, can help people understand and manage their conditions, and how having them available in community settings like libraries can also be useful. As she says, if she's having a bad day, she drops into the library and picks up a book. And the scheme, on the left, you'll see the leaflet, the blue leaflet, which fits with the clinical approach of the books on prescription model. But I think that the other thing, because we've cited this within a bigger public library health offer, the scheme also signposts to the therapeutic value of reading, such as, in a wider sense, such as reading groups, but also reader recommended fiction and poetry. And there's a strong evidence base. There's a really interesting piece of research by Galaxy, which shows that actually reading a good book can reduce stress by 75%. And it's that sort of escapism, therapeutic power of reading that sits alongside the clinical model. So we've got mood boosting books, which is a crowdsourced model of books to cheer you up and make you feel better, and we signpost this alongside books on prescription as a sort of balance to that clinical model. And it's really interesting to get people talking about books that have made a difference to their own well-being, because you can start your own lists. It's a really sort of flexible model. So and then obviously the Reading Agency as well has got other schemes that we can link up with, such as the Reading Ahead 6-book challenge model, which is, once you've got people on a reading journey, it can become a very therapeutic process. So that's a very quick introduction to the scheme. I've got a little video to show you, but I'm very happy to pick up any questions now, if anybody's got anything burning that they want to say or questions they want to ask about the scheme.
No, that's me.
No?
It's going to be horrible for people when we're recording. I think it's just a bit of feedback.
Okay.
I wondered.
Hold on, I've got one here. Go on.
I wondered if you'd seen any effects of the cuts to public library services. Because I know that there's been quite a decrease in the amount of staff available in the public library service to help deliver this kind of thing.
I mean, I think there's two bits to that question. I think, yes, obviously, public library services are under a lot of pressure, but actually I think that this health work is helping to reposition them in quite strategic ways and is bringing new money in to the sector. Around 50% of library services delivering the Dementia scheme are actually funded by public health to do that. So I think actually, I mean, there's a lot of bad news stories out there around public libraries, and it's always sad when libraries close. But I think that this type of work is helping to position libraries in quite a strategic way, which is really important. I think the point about staff is an interesting one, because all our evidence shows that people like the anonymity of the library space and like to actually don't draw attention to the fact that they're there to borrow a book about mental health. And although we've got a sort of prescription model for it with the prescription form, what we find is that even when people have those prescriptions, they don't hand them in or ask library staff about it because they prefer to use it in a completely anonymous way. You know, I'm not saying that that's in any way a plus sign for losing library staff, but what I'm saying is I think that the scheme operates really well within that sort of structure of the anonymous community library space, and also automated book issues, which means that you don't have to draw attention to what book you're borrowing. And I think the other thing is that obviously there's the ebook lending model, which is emerging, and I think certainly in Devon, when they got their ebook collection of books on prescription titles on the Friday, by the Monday they'd all been borrowed remotely. So I think there are different ways in which you can access the material. Matt, you were
Interesting, thanks.
Yeah, there was kind of two parts. One is when you do the review, are you going to look at any kind of trans-diagnostic approaches to mental health? So, for example, there's a book I would recommend called The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris, which covers a whole range of issues because it's looking at experiential avoidance.
Yeah.
And the other was we know about the huge overlap between physical and mental health.
Yeah.
So are there going to be any around, you've got one relating to sleep, but one's relating to self-care or self-management of long-term conditions in general?
Yeah. Well, to pick up the last question first, the long-term conditions one is a key one, and I think how we develop the programme is we look at their areas of greatest need, and so the next two priorities after the young people's model is going to be long-term conditions, which will obviously have a sort of crossover between the physical and the mental.
Yeah.
And the revision of this list to widen the footprint. I think what we've found with the dementia work is the broader range of material, the better, really. The Feel Good Handbook, which is less of a sort of CBT model, has been really popular. So I think, you know, definitely we've learnt from this first development, and the next iteration of it will be, more diverse.
One of the fantasies that I had a long time ago, so about 2006, when I was doing the mental health work in Yorkshire and Humber, was that libraries would either have a kind of outreach collection, or that libraries in colleges, so, you know, somewhere like Northern College, would have their own kind of for learners, and that universities would do the same.
Yes.
And has that happened anywhere?
Well, there are some models of it happening. Certainly Loughborough University have bought the whole collection of the common mental health titles, and they have the leaflets, and the two work side by side. And I think Leeds has as well. So there's a couple of sort of pilots, but it's definitely something we'd like to develop, definitely.
So I just happen to know that Caroline has just created some extra money in her project. And I just wonder, given the other work that's happened at Northern College about mental health, whether a small pilot collection at Northern College that's for learners and staff to see how it goes down, even if it was just e-books maybe, but to kind of, I wonder whether that might be something you might want to talk about, Caroline, in your group.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that would be really interesting, and I think the other sort of strand, which I picked up from an earlier conversation about development, is workplace development, because we have had a couple of local authorities. Certainly, there's one around Manchester where they've bought the books in for the local authority, and they're using the leaflets as part of their HR provision around, you know, developing good mental health and well-being in the workplace. So I think there's potential for lots of different models for delivering it.
Okay, Matt's got another.
Oh, sorry, it's just I've seen in recovery colleges that I've visited that they have a store, so it might be that there are collections of these books that exist with your partner organisations.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might be able to borrow them from there as well.
Yes.
I mean, you can imagine, Caroline, can't you, that I've almost got the shelf picked out in your library. But I suppose what I was thinking is also because your college is residential for lots of people, actually, it's that other thing at the weekend or whatever, it could be absolutely perfect.
Diploma students that are here all year.
Right.
Yeah, and because it's social purpose education, everything at Northern College, actually, the demographic of its learners is that there will be few learners for whom mental health is not some kind of an issue, really. I think that's probably how we're kind of, you know, so it might be a perfect place. And I certainly, the kind of issue for me is, I suppose, when we get to your young people's collection, that feels as if for other, you know, general FE colleges, as though it is a practical thing that might be really, really useful, because although we're doing this community learning project, young learners and the kind of issues around young learners in colleges are in my inbox every single day. And last night I had dinner with an employer locally who has apprentices, and he's at a funeral on Thursday for a 19-year-old girl apprentice who committed suicide last week. And so it is that kind of thing about wherever learning is, they might not be signed up to our mental health courses, but and two things really. I mean, I kind of obviously felt greatly around the young woman, but I also realised that when we're pushing apprenticeships, as we are currently as a government policy, to employers, we aren't thinking about what that impact might be on employers in terms of their mental health.
So it's just speaking to the other parts of Derby Adult Learning Service, a lot of the apprentices, the main reason they're being off sick now is stress. So I've been speaking to them about what can we offer. Let's go for this pilot. Most apprentices, that's the right word, apprentices are 19, are older ones now.
In fact, the problem with apprenticeships is it hasn't reached young people, so most are adults actually,
Oh,
whereas employers have taken on their own staff as apprentices. But the push in the new target is for young people, and I'll talk to you afterwards, but we have a couple of bits of work going on at the moment, and this feels like a really practical way sometimes when you can make a quick difference in something that's already evidence-based, and people won't want you to spend 6 years working out what it might look like. But also maybe in the package that they give employers is that thought about how does an employer cope? Because this employer had worked really hard, had won awards, not nice awards, but other awards for the apprenticeship. The learner is photographed everywhere as a kind of outstanding apprentice. So this has really hit that employer hard. And so I kind of thought, actually, there's something about the apprentices and improving what we do there, but there's also something about the employers and the fact that if you're moving to, I won't digress for too long, but if you're moving to more young apprentices, it's that issue about when do people first develop their mental health problems, and they first develop them when they're young, under 25 really, the majority of them. So that felt kind of critical really. I can't see any sign of Lisa yet ringing in.
No.
So do you want to carry on?
Yes, okay. Well, shall we look at the video? I think it's only about 5 minutes, isn't it?
If the sound's not good, tell us and we'll just give you the link.
No, hear it. Nothing. Oh,
Can you not hear it?
no.
Can you not hear it?
No.
Okay. Caroline, what about you? No?
No.
Okay, we'll stop that then, I think. We'll stop it and send you the link for it afterwards, I think, rather than spend a lot of time trying to get it right.
Yeah.
I think is the answer.
Okay.
So
We're going to be delivering our retreat at Northern College. doing sort of taster sessions for people. And one of the suggestions has already been recovery through reading. I don't know if that's related to this, you know, and it's a self-help book, so it's just reading generally. So I'll try and tie it together to make sure the listening reference as well.
That sounds really useful, doesn't it? They've got a reading group, a self-help reading group,
yes.
and so they could talk to them about how to take that forward. That sounds really useful.
I'm really interested in that model of self-help reading groups. Because I think reading groups in general are very therapeutic. You know, they're a supportive environment for people to go to feel included and part of a community. They're a learning tool, which is obviously good for people's well-being, but it also, you know, looking at different types of material often helps people to explore their own experiences through the lens of fiction and share difficult life circumstances with other people. So I think in general reading groups are a really important community mental health intervention. I think if you you know, but I'm particularly interested in the value of reading groups in relation to some of the material on our reading lists as well, as using them as a tool to explore that.
No, that sounds right. Okay, I'm just going to try and get all the little pictures up again, so that we're all there. And do you want to show the website now to people then?
Okay, yeah.
Oops. Okay, and I need to hide the little pictures again.
Okay. So we've always had some of the pages on our own reading agency website dedicated to the Reading Well program. But last year we launched this new website, which is
sorry, can you not hear that?
No, yeah, it's fine.
Loads of feedback. Just bear with me, just 1 minute as we. Okay, go on.
So this was launched particularly to focus as a public-facing resource rather than the sort of business-to-business model of our own website. And so on here, you'll find information about the scheme, information about the books. So if we go into this is the books on prescription. So I'm just getting used to.
Use Microsoft.
So here, what you'll have is, you know, all of the conditions with the titles attached. I'm going to have to use. Okay. So information about all of the books that you know is on the list. There's also a resources section. How do we get back to the tabs at the top? Here we go. It's next to the books bit. So in here, why can't I do that then? So in here, there's all. Here we go.
There you go.
In here, we've got all our resources that you may want to use. So there's the book list there. There's the user leaflet. There's also an overview of the books, which is quite useful. So in there's a little bit about each title and you know its contents. There's also some information about, there's some extracts from some of the material, and a whole set of resources, including a guide for people on how to get the most out of their self-help reading. So I think that's, you know, that is a useful resource that people can use to back up the scheme. There's also a facility there for people to leave their own book reviews of some of the stuff that they've read. So you know, again, I think that's something where we can collect user feedback on some of the materials. So we've got resources for readers there. We've got resources for professionals, and obviously there's some crossover between those resources, but a link to the shop where where all the leaflets are available. And there's also, you know, information there for library staff. So it's a really good, useful resource to signpost people to. And we can share the link to that, can't we? So absolutely, anybody can access it if they want to. And there's also digital versions of the leaflets if people prefer those rather than the physical leaflets themselves. Is it worth having a look at the leaflets?
Yeah, let's put you back on the webcam. Oops. Just bear me a minute. Just bear with us a minute while I just get the webcam back if I can. There we go. We want that to be you. Okay, and in theory, no, it doesn't like you. Let me just get rid of that. And okay, we want full screen, don't we? Little technical hitch while I work out how to try and get us to Zoom again. Bit nervous, nerve-wracking now. You can see something I can't normally see. Okay. I'm making it worse, not better. That's the gist. Right, I'm definitely making this worse, not better. Oh God. Sorry. Oh, just hadn't touched it. Just give me 2 seconds. I'll just try and stop that doing what it's doing. Okay, and let's just try and get rid of it. I'm really nervous of doing quit Zoom. If we disappear, I'll be coming straight back in, all right? So I just, yeah, it says we're going to lose the whole meeting if we go from there. I think the problem is at the moment, we're showing you as the, I don't know what's happened, to be honest. I just do not know. Right, manage participants. I can't make it do it. I cannot. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for just a moment, okay? Oh, thank goodness for that.
Thank you, yeah, very nice big face.
I just don't know how to make that the one that we see. No, I'm really sorry, I can't work it out, Debbie, how to.
Oh, sorry, that's me going on.
How to make it that yours is the one that we can see. I'm just going to mute your video for a minute there and see if we can get Debbie at the main screen. No, I can't do it. I can't get you. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we can't see the rest of you for a minute, but it does mean that Debbie can show you the leaflet.
Yeah. So this is the leaflet. This is the user leaflet, which has been written with our partners. As you can see, there's information about the scheme there and a detachable book list there. And the idea is that you can, if you're using this as on a recommendation model, you can look through the titles and tick the ones that you think might be helpful for someone, to give them some guidance, and then they can just rip it out and take it with them to the local library, and either ask for help or just find the title themselves. Most library services, but not all, but most do offer some concessions for this scheme in terms of some offer free reservations, but some offer free library loans and quick library membership if people aren't members anyway. So the whole sort of system is geared up around delivering the model. And what we found is actually people like to keep hold of this as a sort of useful reading list to come back to later. So I think that whilst there's been obviously the digital version of this is helpful for quick and easy access, I'm really keen to retain the physical leaflets themselves, because I think that they're an important signposting mechanism. And we do also provide a leaflet for professionals, which just gives information about the scheme, and it's just minus the book list. So that sits alongside that, and that goes out through libraries to GPs and IAP providers, but it could quite easily also, if you sign up with your local library service, and we can help you do that, come to learning providers as well. And just a quick, just in case anybody's interested in the dementia, which I haven't really covered in the, today, but I'm happy to talk about as well. There's a similar version of the leaflet for people with dementia, with again the same model with the detachable back end with the books on listed. So I think that's they're some of the resources. I mean, I can talk you through in a moment about some of the ways we could help you, but it'd be really interesting if the technology is possible.
If the technology lets us, yeah.
To just get your views really on how you might use it, whether it might be of value, where how it could sit alongside some of the work that you're developing.
You're back in full screen, I'm afraid. We only seem to have one choice for you, which is full screen or not at all.
I'm wondering where the books were provided from. Do the library services order themselves with their own providers, or do you provide packs of books for different?
How the scheme works at the moment is that we're the National Development and Delivery Agency, but we work, obviously it's a shared scheme with public libraries, and so the model is that we provide, working with libraries, provide all the materials, develop the materials, but local library services then buy in the book lists, the leaflets, and the book collections to support it. Clearly that is not the best model, in that we would like to have these materials available completely for free. At the moment we haven't got any health funding within the scheme to do that, so it's unfortunately part of the business model that helps us to deliver the materials. But what's happening locally is that lots of library services are developing very strong partnerships with public health, who are working with them to buy materials and to buy the book collection. So the libraries have been able to increase their resource base for the scheme by working in partnership.
Funny enough, just got the infographics on it around all of your partnerships, from the conversations they're evaluating.
Well, the sound quality's gone very poor.
At the moment, is that any better?
No, you sound like a robot.
Okay, just give me
It's gone distorted.
It's really weird the way it's done it on the response as well. Change. Well, that's even worse.
No, that's better.
Is it better for you? It's worse for us at this end on the recording, but hey. Okay, let's see how we get on with this.
Yes, so I think there's been a really close sort of relationship between library services and public health. But I think what library services are really keen to do is develop new local partnerships to deliver the scheme. They don't always have the resources and the capacity to do that. So, you know, what we can help to do is connect people up where there are partnership opportunities. So that's why some of our national partnerships are important, because they've driven local partnership development. But I think, you know, if there was potential to develop some local partnerships, including adult and community learning providers, libraries would be very open to that.
So it might be that, you know, if we do get a year 2, that's a good thing to kind of look at. It might be amongst people's resources. It might be, I was thinking that maybe around your workforce development budgets, that I know that lots of people have done face-to-face training with their staff, but actually books to help people understand the conditions from that kind of workforce development perspective might be useful. And the thing before the sound went west, I was about to say about the infographic, was I think it's 22 of the pilots have public health on their partnership. So they would all be ready, primed to go and have, or we could have that conversation with you and share with you who those 22 are. And then you could email them after this to say, come and watch this, and then come and talk to you afterwards if they want to. You've got public health on yours, I think. Have you, Caroline?
I think so.
If you haven't, there's somebody new who's just started at Barnsley Public Health who we could put you in touch with, who'd be very interested. So that might be worth kind of thinking about, really, as a first place to look at it. We've already got that public health buy-in. Wakefield, for example, have definitely got public health on theirs. Yeah, there's already somebody at Sheffield who would be supportive. So I think that probably that's worth kind of thinking about, really.
Wakefield is a particularly strong area of provision. They're doing a lot of interesting work, and particularly around a dementia scheme, you know, dementia-friendly libraries, and, you know, working very closely with public health.
And we've got some pilots who are looking at that, who are saying, we know that depression in particular is one of the things that makes dementia kind of more difficult for people and their families. And so we've got a couple of pilots who want to focus particularly on working around both the person with dementia and their families around depression in particular.
Yes, and I think that the scheme focuses very strongly on carers as well, providing support for carers, you know, inspirational personal stories, but also ideas about activities you can share with someone with dementia, sort of to keep them engaged and active, and a brilliant series of books called Pictures to Share, which have been particularly designed for people with dementia, very big picture books, but very evocative, but are also really useful actually for using with people with who find the written word difficult to access, because, you know, that you can start a storytelling process off around them. So lots of opportunities there.
I don't know about you, but my brain is busy thinking of hundreds of different kind of things and ways. So we might want to post that on the forum afterwards and say, since I've had this idea and that idea, that might be quite good. But have you had any more thoughts about how we could use it now?
I was wondering if you'd done any work around reminiscence work.
Yes, it's interesting because the dementia scheme signposts to reminiscence groups and libraries. I mean, I haven't talked about it today, but actually we've done a much bigger piece of work within which the scheme sits, which is around mapping the offers that libraries deliver around health. And so we have a public library health offer model, and underneath that we have a dementia model. And I think that what that clearly shows is a range of services that libraries offer to support people and carers of people with dementia, and reminiscence materials, local studies collections, and actually sort of active groups are, you know, a really prominent part of that. So I think it's particularly well developed in libraries. And I think the other interesting thing is that we have just secured, I mean, this is very hot off the press news, but we've just secured some new money to develop the idea of an older people's challenge type model, and I think challenge is probably the wrong word, but the idea is that it will be a framework, a bit like Reading Ahead, the 6-book challenge model, to help older people, or sort of start out on new meaningful reading journeys. And that might include things like reading a book from the dementia list, but also reading with their children, volunteering around reading, so bringing in a whole range of tools that we can offer. So we're looking for places to pilot that over the next year.
All right. Oh, okay. So that might be worth just showing more broadly with our providers, maybe because they will have a wider adult and community learning service.
Yes.
I'm just going to open a Word document, assuming that my machine will let me do that. No, of course it won't. I think one of the reasons this is proving a bit complicated is because I've also got it on a projector here in the room, and so the projector is controlling what we see on the screen.
Okay.
What I was thinking was that we should start a kind of quick brainstorm, really, of those ideas that are coming through. So do you want to just, if we look at the dementia work as kind of one of the things that you might want to kind of follow up?
Yeah.
And Matt, any ideas coming from you of things that we could follow up, or ideas of how we use it?
There was a workplace strand, wasn't there?
We had that workplace strand. And we had college libraries.
Yeah.
And we had for our workforce development, particularly where it's remote or part-time sessional staff who might not be able to come to a whole day's training. So we had talking to public health about kind of funding it.
Reaching out to existing reading groups.
Yeah.
And creating reading groups around.
So.
And just on that point, we have a really good website called Reading Groups for Everyone, which has a national database of reading groups where people can find a reading groups local to them or sign up their reading group, and has a close link with publisher offers and support materials that are driven through that database. So you can
tell us what the website is again, so I can type it in.
Reading Groups for Everyone. And on there you'll find a whole lot of resources and support materials, publisher offers. Quite often publishers will offer author visits or what have you as part of that model. So that's a really good supporting resource around that wider reading offer.
The other couple of things that I think we talked about before we started the webinar was times when our courses might have a break or be interrupted. So for example, the October half term, you might decide to carry on delivering, but you might decide October half term's not a bad break actually for reflection for people, for some time to do other things that they've got to do. I really love from some other work where people with mental health problems actually say to their health professionals, I can't come to my appointment this week because I'm on my course, but I can come in this week, which is half term. So things like that. So I kind of wondered if suggesting a book to people while they're on that half-term break, or I'm not imagining, you're never going to believe this, but I'm not going to demand, unless you choose to, that you deliver on Christmas Day and New Year's Eve. So Caroline is very relieved now, So it might be that at those difficult times like Christmas and so forth, that actually
when there is very high incidence of depression,
Christmas list or whatever, recommendations to people. So I was kind of thinking that maybe some of those ideas of how we could incorporate them in what we're doing. And Matt, you said about groups that are doing literacy or creative writing anyway, and who look for ideas. So any other thoughts?
And just to add in our Reading Ahead model as well, which is the old 6-book challenge, which you may already use, which is a sort of set of resources to encourage people to read 6 books or 6 reads and log their experience of that. And I think that that's a good sort of underpinning model for this sort of work as well, because I think if we're looking at the whole spectrum of reading as a mental health intervention, you've got you know, the sort of well-being impact of developing your literacy and your learning. You've got the clinical approach of books on prescription, and you've got the sort of therapeutic mood boosting model of just reading a good book that makes you forget your worries.
Yeah. And I suppose the other thing I was thinking is that even that people might go on holiday, or they may have to go somewhere with their family, or they might go in hospital for either their own mental health or for a physical health condition, and actually taking a book at a stressful time like that, you know, that's about managing your condition really discreetly might be really helpful for people. So I think there are perhaps lots of practical ways where recommending them, using the leaflet to recommend to learners, might work really well, and maybe all of us just making that more available to our staff as well might be kind of quite a positive move. I was also wondering, as we're sat here in NIOS today, about quick reads. Have any of the quick reads been linked to?
Yes, definitely, and we have a developing relationship with quick reads at the Reading Agency, you know, I think one of the things that we're going to be doing next year is looking at ways we can plan together. And I think what would be really exciting would be a quick reads book as part of this series that was specially commissioned for emergent readers, but, you know, perhaps focusing on dealing with depression or, So.
And what does a specially commissioned quick read cost?
Well, I don't know, because I think at the minute the model is around the publisher support for it. So I don't know, but that's something we could look at.
Okay, so should we try and get a price? Because that might either be, if we've got a year two, we have a budget, it might be that collectively pilots might all chip in a tiny amount. You know, there might be a way to look at that, or there might, so I guess that's kind of what I'm thinking is, and that would be possibly a really great outcome as well from the pilots overall, because we could get the size and shape and the introducing people to reading and the literacy levels right for people. Okay, and people who don't read and who use CSL, for example, what do we do about supporting them to access resources? Are there videos? Do you know that we?
Well, on our website, there's a lot of material that publishers have given us around with authors, you know, talking about their books. But I think that video and visual element is certainly something we would want to develop, because I think that is important. I think one of the problems with the ebook model is obviously there are, you know, that's a developing model in libraries and isn't completely established yet. There's some ebook pilot lending going on at the moment, but you know, a number of the titles are available as ebook lending titles, and you know, they do have that text to speech element that you can use.
We've got 2 pilots only so far, I think, unless you want to correct me, that have said in their plan that they're going to use books on prescription. And one of those is Lisa at Hillingdon. And I think you've had a conversation with her about how she's planning to use it. Do you want to just share that with people?
So I spoke to Lisa Dancer yesterday, and quite by chance I was also meeting yesterday with her chief librarian from Hillingdon Library Service, and how they've worked is that the library service have in fact provided Lisa with leaflets for her to, which she has then distributed to all her adult learner staff, and they're using that as part of as a support resource for their curriculum. So promoting it to learners, but also as a resource for themselves as well. And that's worked really well, a really close relationship between the library service and the community mental health learning team, working together with the library service providing materials, signposting to the collections in libraries for the community mental health, community learning team use those materials then within their network.
Okay, so the other challenge is to ask Marie and Devon, which is the other pilot that we know is definitely using it. So on the forum, one of us to post saying, tell us what you're doing, Marie. She's a new project lead, so she's not posted yet on the forum, so it might be a good way of enticing her to post. And then are we saying for people to get in touch with you? Do we want to do that via the website? Do we want them to email you?
I think email is the best. Email me. There was on my PowerPoint, there was my email address on the last slide, but we can put that up afterwards as well. Okay. and you know, we can deal with any inquiries and support people in any way.
So I just wonder if there are any last comments or questions from anybody, and other than that, we'll probably draw to a close.
And what would be really helpful for us is to, you know, to be kept to learn how you're using the scheme within your models, because I think that's really good. We can do case studies, which we can then put on our, you know, on our website, which are really useful, both for libraries to think about new partnerships, but also to think about how we expand the scheme and work with new networks.
And of course, the place to do that is your web pages or to blog. Just throwing that in, you know, if anybody feels inclined to, you know, kind of share that with people. And so other kind of thoughts from you about what you might want to do, what you're going to do with what you've learned today? I suppose that's the question.
I can definitely see therapeutic benefits, and I think going down self-help might then help people go into reading on a wider level. And then you've got the social.
One day I'm going to crack the sound on this.
You've got the social benefits because obviously they're getting out, getting to the library regularly, meeting people. So I can see that it's a real, you know, avenue to go down. So definitely something I'm going to be looking into with our group.
I think it's really interesting you said that, because in 2010 I did some research around mapping public library activity, and we spoke to some service users about whether they would prefer to do CCBT therapy in their own home, or whether they would like to do it in the library, and you know, using the digital access in the library. And a number of people said that actually going to the library was part of their recovery. You know, just going down the road and being in a supportive community space and talking to people where there were no demands on them, but they could feel really at home and unchallenged was an important part of their.
Really nice to hear that as an ex-library worker as well. So it'd be good for us to make links with Barnsley libraries, particularly from the college here.
Yeah.
Okay. And Matt, you're going to do anything with what you've learned today?
Yeah, I'm going to go back and find the person who's coordinating it in my area.
I can send you the link.
That's good.
Yeah.
And speak about cross-promotion.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like you say, this is useful for people we're trying to target.
Yeah.
So, and we're trying to go where they already go.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, that sounds brilliant. I'm going to draw this to a close then. Thank you very much to Debbie for coming in and for her first webinar. Apologies for the technology, and I'll have to apologise on the recording, but I'll post the recording up later today. I'm going to say goodbye to Matt and Debbie in a minute, and Caroline, I think I'll see you for our one-to-one at 2:30, where I will try to have better sound between us. Okay, thank you all very much indeed for coming. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.